Ready.
This is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville, and the City Council sitting as the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the City Council performing the housing functions of the former Victorville Redevelopment Agency. Do we have any cards? There's no one here to speak. Is that correct, Madam City
No
Clerk?
cards received.
Okay, then we have no public comment. We can go directly to looking at the closed session items. I understand that there is an item to be added from the city attorney.
That is correct, Mayor Cox. We have on the agenda item A, which is anticipated litigation under subdivision C of section 5495 6.9 of the Government Code. In addition, I would like to add an urgency item. It would also be anticipated litigation under Government Code 54954.2 B2. You would have to make a finding that the item arose after the posting of the agenda and that there's immediate need. The facts related to that is that we received a letter from the Department of Finance on Thursday evening after the posting of the agenda that disputes certain amounts that we believe the agency, the successor agency, is entitled to. And in fact, this is a closed session for the successor agency of the redevelopment agency. It disputes amounts that we believe the agency is entitled to. And per the terms of the letter, if we were to disagree with this letter, there could be serious ramifications to the city, and we have to remit the funds per the terms of the letter within 5 business days. So there's an immediate need to take
How many days?
within 5 days. So that's certainly before the next meeting, and there's a significant exposure to the city in terms of financial impact of this letter. So I need to get direction as to whether or not this may involve anticipated litigation. So you would have to first make a motion finding that the item arose. Again, it rose Thursday at 8:30 is when we received the letter, and it requires certain actions by us within 5 business days.
Okay, we need a motion.
Also move.
Second.
With this machine, do I call for the vote, or is it going to be automatic?
Because this was not an agendized item, a voice vote is required for this item.
Please vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No noes. It's unanimous. We will now go into closed session. Thank you.
For the record, to the extent there is any reportable action, we will report that either at the conclusion of the closed session or immediately preceding the 7 o'clock meeting. Not yet, but we'll See you tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Rational wisdom.
Welcome, everyone. This is the city council. Oh, thank you. I was off. Started off. Council meeting of at 7 o'clock, December 18, 2002, and I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Council members Garcia,
Here. Here.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Here.
Councilmember Vyas,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McEachran,
Here.
Mayor Cox.
Here. And report from the closed session by the city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Cox. We had a regularly scheduled closed session item, and we added a closed session item in accordance with the government code. There is no reportable action with respect to either item this evening.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation, I'm going to ask you to stand and Minister Ricky Bullard to come forward from the Burning Bush Church, and then immediately following that, remain standing in the Pledge of Allegiance by the Victorville Police Chief, Don Yoder.
Thank you. As we bow our heads, Father, again, we come to you with an open heart and with loving minds, thanking you for all you've done for us. We thank you for the blessings on our community, how you blessed our children, how you blessed our churches, how you blessed this great men and women here today. We ask right now that you would touch them right now, Father God, as they govern over this city. Clear their minds, Father God, and present what you would have them to present. We ask that your spirit would run rapid today and heal the hearts of those who have been wounded this past week, Father God, from all the tragedies. But yet, during this holiday season, we find joy in giving you praise for your Son, Jesus. We thank you, Father God, for blessing our minds to be here on one accord, Father God, for the governing of your meeting place, Father God, in this house. We reserve this right now and give this house to you. Bless the mayor, Father God, him and his family. Bless all his council members, Father God, all of those that are in charge. Give them strength and courage to stand for you, Father, as we give you praise and give you glory. In the mighty and matchless name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
I'm going to come down front because we have some presentations to make. We have 4 presentations to make, and I'd like to ask if Corey Elder showed up. Is he here? I know it's bad weather. He's a young man. This is a certificate of recognition that we were going to present, and this was going to be presented by our council member, Angela Vyas. If he is not here, we're going to move on. If he shows up, we'll try to do it later, possibly at another time, because we certainly have this for him. The second presentation we have is Mr. Lionel Dew, President. While he comes forward, this is in recognition of the school bus driver Veronica Torres and Good Samaritan Don Mason regarding the Galileo school bus incident. This was requested by Lionel Dew, and we want to thank him for that. During the course of transporting 40 Galileo Academy students, bus driver Veronica Torres acted quickly in avoiding a 30-foot U-Haul truck. The skills demonstrated by Ms. Torres resulted in life saves. Her quick attention and action is deserving of this recognition. And these are the presentations. Veronica Torres, would you come forward, please? Don Mason, you will come up shortly. I'd ask you, would you present this? Sure.
Good evening. I'd just like to say a few words as relates to education, being a former trustee for the Victor Elementary School District. I recognize the fact that our nation is experiencing national tragedy, but as individuals such as Veronica perform these acts of unselfish acts every day on behalf of our children. And on behalf of the Victor Elementary School District and our superintendent, Jan Gonzalez, I want to extend this recognition to you.
One for Don Mason. A round of applause for these individuals. Thank you. The next awards are going to be, it was requested by Captain Don Yoder. I would like for Captain Yoder to come up here. And the police department has focused on a DUI enforcement, trying to limit the number of alcohol-related deaths that we've had in 2011. As of December 17, 2012, 436 DUI arrests have been made. And our police chief, Don Yoder, will grant these to the three officers.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quick, first I'd really like to thank Doug and our Mayor Ryan. If it wasn't for their support in starting and bringing back this DUI program, which was part of my goals when I came on as the police chief, you would have 446 drunk drivers running around out there. These guys, I tell you what, have done a fantastic job. I could not be more proud of three individuals on our department and part of Victorville City. Let me just give you some numbers because they were recognized by MAD this year. Troy Meridian got 78 DUI arrests as a part-time motor. Pedro Pete Ortiz got 114 arrests in about a 6-month period. And, come here. This guy right here was recognized for the county of San Bernardino as the top DUI arrest. How many did you get?
254.
So with them, they bring their recognitions from MAD, which they much deserve, and also Kevin last year received the state award for DUI arrest for the state of California. So we're very proud of what Kevin has done. And again, because of you two supporting us and providing us the funding for these DUI task force, again, you would have much more drunk drivers out there. So, Mayor, please.
Our chief would present those certificates to the three officers on behalf of the city of Victorville, and we thank them very, very much. And thank you again. The last that we have here is I'd ask Dana Armstrong to come forward, and this is for the presentation to the winners of the Victorville Recycle Weeks contest. Dana, would you come forward, please?
Thank you, Mayor Cox and members of the City Council. I'm here tonight. I'm going to take a few minutes to recognize the winners of the Victorville Recycles Week event. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, Victorville Recycles Week is sponsored by the City of Victorville Recycling Program along with Burtech Waste Industries. This year it ran from November 5th through November 9th. Victorville Recycles Week was started in November of 2007, and I always like to give credit where credit is due. It was the brainchild of Ro Ratliff, who worked for the recycling program at that time. She had a great idea to try and get the schools involved in recycling and spreading the word. So this was the 6th year that we've done this event. It's intended to increase awareness and participation in the city's various programs, and our focus is working with the schools. This year, some of the highlights from this year's events, we had 15 schools signed up to participate. Approximately 1,500 posters were entered in our poster contest. 121 sculptures were entered in the recycled sculpture contest. And I have to give a shout out to Morgan Kincaid, which just did more than half of those sculptures. It was amazing. We had 63 in-class presentations and to about 2,100 students, 16 school-wide assemblies to about 4,500 students. 5 schools participated in our community cleanup in October, giving us 180 volunteers. 12 schools participated in our CRV bottle and can drive, and all told, we estimate that about 7,000 students participated in our Victorville Recycles Week event. And if you look back over the last 6 years, I estimate that we've made contact with over 40,000 students over the last 6 years through this program, so it really is amazing what has been accomplished. The idea is that during the week, schools can earn points by participating in various activities. And tonight, what we're going to do is recognize the winners, 3 schools as well as 2 individual students. So at this time, I would like to invite up representatives from Burtech Waste Industries. I'd like to invite up Stephen Bradshaw, who's the division manager for Victorville Disposal, as well as Sharon Mitchell, who is the municipal program coordinator for Burtech. And they're going to help with handing out these awards, okay? And well, make sure you keep. This is our perpetual trophy, and the grand prize winner is a secret, so we have to keep it turned away from anybody who might want to see before the final announcement. So the first person I would like to, first of all, I just want to say a word about Burtech. Burtech is really our partner in this program. They're a sponsor. They contribute the cash prizes for the first, second, and third place winners. And Sharon Mitchell has done a huge amount of work. She really is out there. She's the one who did the 63 in-class presentations and all the assemblies. So she's the person out there who's really making it happen. So to start with, I would like to invite Alexis Marquez to come forward. She's a 4th grader at Morgan Kincaid Elementary School. Okay. A 4th grader at Morgan Kincaid, and we had over 120 sculptures entered in the contest this year, and it was tough competition, but hers came out on top. Her sculpture is on display out in the lobby. It's fantastic. It's a drum set made out of tin cans, and we just saw it and we said, oh, this is just, I don't know where you got the inspiration, but it was awesome, and the judges decided that was the best. So she will be getting a $100 check for being the winner of the recycled sculpture contest. Congratulations. Okay, and maybe you could sit down. And now I'd like to invite Raylina Marin to come forward. She's the winner of our poster contest. Here she comes. Raylina is a 5th grader at the Academy Elementary School. You get to stand between Sharon and the mayor. And there were over almost 1,500 posters entered in the poster contest. And her poster stood out because of its great artwork, but what we especially liked was its great message and call to action. It said, hey, why are you just standing around? Let's recycle. We thought that was great. It was kind of a call to action. Hey, let's get going. Let's start recycling. And she will also be the recipient of a $100 check as the winner of the poster contest. Okay, just a couple more things here. So now we're going to recognize the 3 schools that came in first, second, and third in our contest. We're going to start with the third place school. I would like to invite representatives from Mountain View Montessori School to come forward. Mountain View Montessori is a perpetual, they're always either winning or running up. I call them the little school that can. They're a small school, but they do fantastic work with their students. They had a really great year this year. They did poster and sculpture contests, on-campus recycling. They had their drama club put on a play about recycling and many other activities. They're a small school, but they get it done, and they will be receiving a check for $250 from Burtech as the third place runner-up. Thank you very much. On to the second page, almost done. Okay, next we would like to recognize the second place school, and I would like to invite representatives from West Palms Conservatory to come forward. West Palms Conservatory also did a fantastic job this year, participating in a variety of activities, including the poster contest, on-campus recycling, assemblies, and in-class presentations. As the second place winner, they will receive a $500 check from Burtech Waste Industries. Congratulations. Great job. Great job, West Palms Conservatory. And now I feel like this is the Miss America contest, and the grand prize winner is, I would like to invite representatives from Morgan Kincaid Preparatory School to come forward. Morgan Kincaid did a fantastic job. They participated in the poster and sculpture contests. They had a huge team for the community cleanup with 91 participants from their school. They had 246 posters, 73 sculptures, scheduled 2 assemblies, 10 in-class presentations, a MRF tour, did the CRV and the newspaper recycling drive contest, developed recycling chants and cheers, developed an on-campus recycling plan, participated in the Keep California K-12 Recycling Challenge, and they have an on-campus recycling team, and you guys just, wow, kicked it this year. It was awesome. So congratulations, and Vicki, you're awesome. You're such an inspiration. So fun. So, and as the grand prize winner, they will receive a $1,000 check from Burtech Waste Industries. And I want to say, even more important than the $1,000 check is the bragging rights. Their name goes on the Perpetual Recycle Week trophy. So that's why we had to keep it covered. They get to keep it at their school, and then you're going to have to defend it next year, or else we're going to repossess it, okay? And give it to a new school. So congratulations to all our winners. And just in closing, I'd like to thank all the schools, students, teachers, parents, administrators for their participation. Together we got the word out to over 7,000 students, probably tens of thousands of residents. I would also like to thank Burtech. They're a great partner in this program. I would especially like to thank Sharon. I don't know how she's still standing after November. I really don't. And that's it. So thank you very much, and thank you, Council and Mayor, for your time and letting me hog the microphone this long. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank all of you that came tonight in the weather. And now we're going to go on with the meeting. For those who want to leave at the present time, feel free to do so. Just be quiet, because we're going to start our meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any revisions to the city clerk, to the agenda?
There is additional information on the dais for the council in regard to agenda item number 20, which is proposed appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. And that is the only additional information I have.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to proceed with our agenda, and it's time for public comment. I have several cards for individuals who want to speak on particular items. I will reserve those cards because it's item 7, item 12, maybe another item, and we have 3 cards for the present time, which is a public comment period. And these are in no particular order. It's the way they were handed to me. And the first individual is Hakeem Majridis. Probably didn't get that right, but please. Try, Mr. Mayor. Well, I did try.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just got to say this too. Baby, it's cold outside. Okay. I don't know. That's what I was listening to on the way here. First, I'd like to say happy holidays to everybody. And let me first publicly thank Mr. Rothschild and Mr. Cabrielas for their service, good, bad, or indifferent. They decided to get off the sidelines and get involved to make the city better. And I just wanted to say thank them for their service. The next thing I want to say was the last time I had the privilege of addressing the council, I talked about the ideal community. Now, some of you were here, some of you weren't here, and just basically I was talking about Victorville being that ideal community. What are some of the characteristics that we all see and would share as that ideal community? Obviously, something will be crime lower, faith-based being engaged, and just other things just to make the ideal community. Well, I want to talk a little bit, still talk on that ideal community piece today. One other thing I want to share with you is a quote, and please forgive me, I forgot the book that I got this quote from, but it's kind of interesting. I want to share it with you. The quote is, "Perspective, use it or lose it." Perspective, use it or lose it. You guys are in an interesting position because your perspective is you guys are the decision makers. You guys see and privileged information that we don't know about, but you are acting in good faith, and we know that. The vast majority of people know that. But perspective, use it. You guys are in these seats, and what I would like to see more of is more engaging people who, I would say people who need the assistance and need the engagement. The way we make our community ideal is by engaging all aspects of the citizens. I have a personal vision of a mobile after-school program. I would like to see the city gather data on certain crime areas. I don't know, Old Town, Brentwood, other different areas, and trying to gather data, see where the problems are, and who are committing these crimes. Is it from ages 13 to 17 or different things like that? And then actually go to those communities, go to those neighborhoods in partnership with our friends from the faith-based communities, business leaders, our friends at the Chamber of Commerce, and let's see if we could go to those areas and see if we could engage our children in some mobile recreation programs. Basically, we would need to have a sheriff or a city car come down, bring some folding tables. I'm talking fast with my time. Bring some folding tables, some chairs, board games.
You have 20 seconds.
Okay, and talk and engage. I think that I'll make myself available for anybody who wants to email me and work with this. I would love to have some decision makers to make that happen. Thanks and happy holidays.
Thank you. And it's on the agenda, but I did not mention, my apologies, comments are to be limited to 3 minutes per individual or less. I think all of you know that. The next card is from Pastor Al and Rhonda Zorn.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am Pastor Al Zorn, and this is my wife, Rhonda. And we really just wanted to come back and say thank you. A month ago, you guys helped us with the zone change and the conditional use permit, and I think we had 3 meetings that we had to come to, and it was just a blessing to have you guys be on our favor, be on our side, and our desire is to be a high-impact church in this community, a church that we believe we can partner with the city to help things better. the city. You guys can't do it alone. We can't do it alone, and we all want to be the best, for our communities, for our children, and for the protection of what goes on around here. And as a church, we do pray for you. We pray for you on a regular basis. The Bible tells us to, but we also do that, and we believe in you. All of our leaders, our city attorney, we just thank you guys. We want to be a church that will make you proud, that you will be able to partner with when things come up in the city. We want you to be able to look at us and say, hey, we're here for you. So what we have done, we brought just thank you letters to you, as well as Christmas cards. We know there's 2 new council members, and we brought them for you as well. And to yourself, who used to be the mayor, we just, just appreciate you. We do appreciate City Attorney. You went to bat for us 2 times around, and we appreciate that, and as well as the Assistant City Manager and City Manager. I understand, and we just thank you for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The last card that I have, unless we have received any more,
No, we have not.
we have not?
Oh.
We have. For this item, for item number 3? No. Norm Miller be the last one to speak at the public comment period.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I've been up here before on this off and on, and I've been having problems we have with our property. When they decided to put in topaz, we told engineering that we had problems with the way the water was going to flow, and they went ahead and did it anyway, the way they planned it, which I understand that. But the problem we're having now is on a good rain, not today's type, but on a good rain, the water is flooding our property. It's coming over the curb, and the curb we have was put in there because we complained, because originally they didn't put a curb in there. They just left the swell of the dirt. And so they said they were going to put in a Caltrans curb, which I guess means it's a 45-degree angle rather than a 90-degree angle. Oops, sorry, 90-degree angle. But anyway, not this rain, but the one before, the water came over again, and it's flooding out about 10 of our trees. And I think the main problem is it always takes out the basins that we have built around the trees because they're only dirt. And my big problem is that we're always told that you can't put more water on a location when you're doing any kind of building, such as you're building houses and the asphalt streets come in and all the water goes down the hill. And if it goes into somebody's property, that's wrong. Well, that's what's happening with us. The city put in topaz, and now all the water is coming down topaz and it's overriding the curbs and getting into our property. It's actually flooding about 10 trees. I've talked to engineering. I've talked to Public Works. I was told that the swill of the street, which I think means the angle of it, is on the wrong side. All the water comes on our side of the street rather than on the eastern side of the street, which there is no housing or anything on that side at the present time. And I'd just like to see if something could possibly done. If they can put a berm up there other than dirt, it'd have to be rocks or cement or something, but just to keep that from happening, because this happened twice now since probably about 3 years ago. So that's my request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. These items aren't discussed because they're not agenda items, but because of the potential of property damage, this will be referred to staff, and I would ask staff that when they answer this to please copy the council so we will know what the staff has proposed as a potential solution. The next, that concludes the public comment section. There will be other public comments made, but they are on specific agenda items. This is the Library Board of Trustees, item number 4, consent. Is this a receive and file, Madam Clerk?
This is an action item, actually.
It's an action item.
Yes. Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron. Motion carries unanimously.
The next item on the agenda, the Southern California Logistics Rail Authority. There are no items at the time of the posting. There was no items added to the agenda. Next is the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority written communications, item number 5. This is a request to approve entering into a standard sublease agreement between the Boeing Company and the SCLAA for Building 717, and 2, approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $42,955.35 for lease and utility revenue. Is there any additions to this from staff or new information?
No new information. I think we're just excited to continue to have Boeing as a tenant. This certainly furthers our relationship with them for 2 years. Because of our conservative budgeting, we typically do not include as a part of our budget revenues when we've got a term expiring during the term of the fiscal year. So also worth noting is that with the renewal of this contract also comes the appropriation of the new revenue source, so it'll actually help out the overall budget picture for the airport operations.
There's no further comments, Madam Clerk.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 6, request to approve and ratify enter into a standard sublease agreement between Mercy Air Services and the SCLAA for Building 724, and 2, approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $882.75 for lease revenue. Item 6.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, this is our standard sublease agreement. It involves Mercy Air. This actually ratifies a lease term dating back to May of 2012, and it actually takes us through a current term through April 30th of 2015. Just to note, this involves Mercy Air basing their actual operations at SCLA. They land their helicopters at SCLA, and they actually share office space. In fact, this building that we're leasing, it's actually shared with our ARF division of the fire department. So it's actually a pretty large facility, oversized for our current ARF operations. So we actually use the additional space to be leased out to the Mercy Air operation.
Okay. Questions by council members? No questions?
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron.
Item number 7.
Mayor Pro Tem, may I get a vote
I'm
from
sorry.
you? Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 7, Airport Security Services. Item here. This is a recommendation that the council approve a general service provider agreement with New Way Security and Investigative Services in the amount of $204,299 annually. Mr. Metzger, a brief report on this, please.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, one of the critical elements in running the airport operation is managing and developing your security program. We certainly have a number of valuable assets, including aircraft, a lot of extensive property to protect. We also have FAA guidance and rules we need to follow with respect to providing a safe and secure airport operation. For some time now, and this has been a fairly long time coming, getting this item before you, staff has been looking at and assessing the security needs, first starting with the security company that is currently providing services, and really determining very specifically what we need going forward. And we've certainly expected and desired a higher level of service than what we've had in the past. So over the course of the last several months, we've been working extensively to develop a good criterion in evaluating whether we contract for security service or we actually internalize. For this purpose, we decided that for now the best course of action to keep our security posture strong is to contract with a very finite term. I believe this contract is for 2 years. But in the selection process, we actually followed the city's standard purchasing process as a professional service bid, much different than if we were trying to procure a contract based upon a price associated with public works. So among the criterion, there was 4 criteria, actually 5 criteria. price being not one of the selection criteria. We actually went through a ranking process of 12 companies. I believe 2 were disqualified due to lack of information, and altogether we followed the city's process to establish who was the most qualified, most responsive bidder given our service need. So with that, this staff item before you is making a recommendation based upon having gone through that process of New Way Security and Investigative Services. It's my understanding that that's a local company. They also have experience in adhering to DOD and federal-related security contracts that they've achieved over their course of existence. And with that, staff is recommending approval.
Before there are any questions of staff, I have a request to speak on item number 7, which this is from Kelly Gregg. Is that correct? Come forward, please.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members and staff. My name is Kelly Gregg, and I'm an Executive Account Manager for True Liberty Protection Services, which was a responsible bidder as well on the contract services for Southern California Logistics Airport. I was unaware that price was not a considerable factor in regards to the contract for services, for security services for your needs, although our company's bid came in at approximately $22,000 savings to the city over a year period, and an established approximation of an additional $20,000 to $30,000 potential cost to the city for extended hours or overtime hours that may incur to the city. Again, realizing that the price was not an issue for the city, I just wanted to open up dialogue possibly with city staff, with us being a new military-owned, veteran-owned company to this area with roots and foundation to this area for 41 years and 68 years of combined service among our staff. We would just like to know if we can have dialogue with the staff at a later time, obviously, regarding potential document recommendation, or I'm sorry, document requests. I see on the back of the page here that we are entitled to look at documents as long as we do so during normal business hours, and we did request to see some documents that way that we can make sure that we're on the same page as what you guys are looking for in security service needs, and possibly in the future for services with the City of Victorville. Thank you. Have a great holiday season, and thank you for your time.
Well, Mr. Gregg, thank you very much for your comments. I just want to clarify one issue really quickly. This was an RFP, not a bid normally for infrastructure. Mr. Attorney, just brief distinction on the both, because I know people had heard here was a proposal that was less. That sounds like a less bid. Why didn't the city take the bid? It's not a bid, it's an RFP, but just briefly, so this is clarified for individuals.
That is correct, and my understanding, Keith, correct if I'm wrong, this was done in accordance with the requirements of the city's adopted code, going through an RFP process. This is not your typical bidding process as such.
That is correct, and I think just for the benefit of the council and members of the audience, in going through the process, once we did obtain the bids and started reviewing the proposals, the 4 primary selection criteria were approach to perform services. That was number 1. And number 2 was past experience on similar projects, which was very important to us, especially as it related to how they would do or conduct services for our airport. Professional qualifications, and certainly we go through a questionnaire process to determine their qualifications, and then also their availability to perform. So it wasn't an arbitrary review of these applications. There was a defined criteria that 3 members comprising a selection committee went through, and of course ranked among all of the bidders, ranked them accordingly, and made a recommendation based upon those criteria.
But I want to thank you, Mr. Gregg, for bringing that to our attention, and I assure you the dialogue will continue. Thank you. If there's no further comments or any questions of the staff? Questions of staff?
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron. Motion carries unanimously.
The next item on the agenda is a successor agency to the RDA. We have written communications, agreement to terminate and release owner participation agreement, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency and the Regional Center of Victorville Development, submitted by Keith Metzler.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, this item is brought really as a cleanup item to activities involving the successor agency to the RDA. Back at the time when there was rumors and discussions concerning the eventual dissolution of the RDA, certainly before the bills were passed, us, along with a lot of other communities throughout the state of California, were scrambling to find ways of trying to protect assets from the dissolution process. Unfortunately, in this case, what we did do is enter into an agreement where we thought we could transfer the development responsibilities and the ownership responsibilities to a nonprofit organization. The RDA, in its existence, actually approved that owner participation agreement. The agreement was never actually affected or acted upon, largely because as we started moving forward and the dissolution bills were passed, it started becoming as clear as it could be that this action taken by the previous RDA is likely not going to pass the test with respect to protecting or preserving assets from the dissolution process. So that being said, this item becomes a cleanup item because it was approved. It's actually negatively affecting title on the assets that are subject to the dissolution. So accordingly, before transfers by the successor agency in disposing of real estate assets, we need to clean up title, and to do so we need to actually cancel the original owner participation agreement and therefore releasing the responsibilities in that agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Metzler. The recommendation is to adopt resolution number SA-12-007. If there's no questions of staff.
So the
Please,
department.
I'm sorry, we do have questions. Go ahead.
So the Department of Finance, they oversee this, right? Or they will approve it? I mean, because we approved something that is not working out, so we're actually rescinding that. That's what we're doing tonight.
That's correct.
Okay. And now what we're doing tonight is the Department of Finance going to approve of that?
Yes, this was an effort by the agency at the time to try and protect assets of the agency. At the time, the bills, we didn't see what the draft of the legislation was going to be like. What the state of California did in their legislation was add provisions that actually clawed back to transactions like this that predated the actual date of the bill. So under the legislation as drafted, they could claw back. This is actually consistent with what the Department of Finance wants us to do. So.
Yeah, and just adding to that, we call it the ROPS. It's a Recognized Enforceable Obligation Schedule. This is an agreement, for example, that is not recognized or approved as a part of the ROPS process. So therefore, there shouldn't be any issue with respect to having the Department of Finance coming back and saying that, in fact, they want this agreement in place. It would actually be counterproductive to the DOF's efforts.
Understood.
There's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron, a second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is item number, lost track here, number 9, consent calendar for the Victorville Water District. This is a request to release labor materials. But let me read it. Subject to release 100% of labor and materials warranty certificate of deposit. Desert Springs Apartment Project. Any questions?
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron. Motion carries unanimously.
Also on the Water District, item number 10 on written communications. Presentation of approval for the Victorville Water District Board of Directors to award the purchase of a Hexa Protect cover for recycled water pond at West Winds Golf Course to AWTT, and I don't know if that's AWIT, Inc., in the amount of $35,356.70. I think that requires a little bit of an explanation from Mr. McGlade, because I thought those ponds were closed or not used.
Good evening.
Can I ask a question before you start? Is this a conflict of interest for me, for Victor, since I work at Victor Valley Wastewater?
No, this is just a contract for providing covers to the ponds. You don't receive any financial benefit from this project one way or the other.
Okay.
Yeah, the pond at the West Winds Golf Course was lined and intended to be used for storing of reclaimed water from VVWRA originally. It is also part of the City of Victorville's storage system for reclaimed water from its wastewater treatment plant. In selling reclaimed water to the High Desert Power Project, they have had complaints about algae growth in the pond water, and this cover would eliminate the algae issue. It's basically a cover that floats on the surface of the water, and as the water level goes up and down, the cover follows suit and prevents the growth of algae.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. McGlade, council members? There are no questions, Madam Clerk.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachran, second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. That concludes the Victorville Water District. We are now the City Council, well, one item, the City Council performing housing functions of former RDA. There are no items at the time of posting, and so we go into the City Council meeting. First item is item 11, which is a public hearing to hear arguments against the introduction of ordinance number 2297, and that is establishing speed zones on certain streets. Questions of staff? If there are none, I'm going to open the public hearing first on this and then ask her if there's any questions of staff. Public hearing. Anyone who has comments, please step forward. On item 11, I have no cards. No one has stepped forward. I'm going to conclude the public hearing. Any questions of staff? No questions of staff? Call for the question.
I'll read the title, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2297, an ordinance of the City of Victorville establishing speed zones upon certain streets in said city and amending Section 12.20.020 of the Victorville Municipal Code entitled Decrease of State Law Maximum Speed on Various Streets. There's a motion by Councilmember Vyas and a second by Councilmember Kennedy to waive further reading and introduce the ordinance.
I may have missed it.
I can enter the vote for you. Is it a yes vote?
It's a yes vote.
Councilmember Garcia? Motion carries unanimously.
The next public hearing is item number 12. I have several cards. Item 12 is a public hearing for the 2013-2014 HCD grants. And at this point in time, the City Council is going to conduct a public hearing to receive citizen and agency comments regarding the city's needs and strategies for the 2013-2014 annual action plan. And 2, receive testimony to consider projects that will be submitted to the city for HCD grants for fiscal year 2013-2014 by nonprofit organizations and departments.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I'm going to, as I have in the past, abstain on this item and the future vote on this item, as several agencies that may be applying for these grants may be clients of my insurance firm.
If I might, we have...
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry.
I have at least one client of my firm that is going to be public comment and will request funding for this, so I think I need to recuse myself.
Before I open the public hearing, any other comments? I'm also read the cards, and then individuals hopefully will come up as these have been received. I put them in no order. Phyllis Overall, Deborah Davis, Jody Connolly, Richard Hawkins, Galen Dang, I hope I have that right, Cassandra Block, Midge, and I'm sorry, Nicosin, I hope that's correct, and Greg Barnes, and if you individuals would come forward and then give your presentation, but also give your name.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Overall. I'm with the Desert Rocks Film and Music event. We would like to apply for the Community Development Block Grant. For those of you that weren't able to attend this year or have never even heard of us, we had a festival in May, and for those of you that have the program in front of you, on the inside I have paper clipped some comments about from people that, a good cross-section of people that attended the festival from all different countries, a lot of different countries, as well as some information about the Sundance Film Festival. I don't know how many of you are aware of that festival. But what we do basically is not only give a platform for people, for individuals that make films and or startups for bands, but also bring culture and education to the community and fiscal benefit to the community. At least that is our hope. Sundance Film Festival, we had some pretty high up veterans of the film industry that attended our festival, and they had been working with the Sundance Film Festival from the beginning for 8 to 12 years each. They said that our festival was better organized and had more to offer than the Sundance Film Festival did their first year. Today, this year alone, the Sundance Film Festival brought in $80 million to the Utah economy. Now, granted, they have been in business, they have been doing their festival for 30 years, but if we could even get a fraction of that income coming into the Victor Valley, it would be very beneficial to our economy. So I just wanted to introduce us so that you know what we're all about and what we can possibly do to help bring some fiscal benefit and some culture and education to the community.
Thank you very much. Deborah Davis.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I am here on behalf of Legal Aid Society, and we want to first of all thank you for the support you've given our nonprofit agency in providing public services in the past. We do come up to Victorville twice a month where we provide free legal clinics. Folks are allowed to speak with attorneys and get advice and then structure what kind of paperwork they might want to do to get into court to resolve their problems. Through our program, children and disabled adults who would not otherwise have access to health care services can gain them. Parents and other relatives who need access to minor children and need to stabilize and receive income can address these things. We are one agency that allows your residents to address numerous issues at one location so that they can solve their own life problems and remove the burden of needing public support from the city. We know that the restraining orders that we establish also save your sheriffs and your police. They are less vulnerable when they go out to a site and there are orders in place and they can merely enforce them. We want to continue this partnership. We will be offering an application in the future, and I'd like to know, for those of you who are not aware of us, that in the last 2 years, we have 2 full grant years. We have served over 200 and some individuals, yielding benefits to the 3.4 members in each household throughout the city. We want to continue this, and I have brought letters offered by various clients to indicate that We are serving real people. With your permission, I'd like to give that to the city clerk.
Please do.
And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jody Connolly.
Evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here to give my personal testimony in the need for the Legal Aid Society. I'm an active client, and without them, my life probably would not be as it is. They've given me the strength to go to court, to fight for custody, and to get the dissolution of my marriage. I feel like without their services, there's a lot of people like me that would not be able to financially be able to go to court on their own and to handle their own issues. I just ask the council, Mayor, to please consider the grant for the next year and the following years. It's a personal issue with me. I really feel like it's important for the public to be able to receive these services because I would not have been able to go to court without them. They've given me the legal knowledge to be able to go up there and stand in front of the judge and speak for myself. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Richard Hawkins.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Richard Hawkins, and I am the director for the Victorville Senior Citizens Club, where the legal aid meets twice a month. I'm concerned if they don't get this grant, we may have problems with the legal system in the courthouse. The courthouse gives legal defense, but it doesn't give the legal defense that the city of Victorville people need. We service every other Tuesday, which is the first and third Tuesday of each month. We service approximately anywhere from 60 to 100 people, and sometime more. To me, it is imperative that you make consideration for this grant for the legal aid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Next speaker is Galen Dang, DAG.
My name is Galen. I'll be the last. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm also from the Legal Aid Society of San Bernardino. First of all, I'd like to say that I understand that it's been a tough time for everybody, maybe on a national level for our state, our cities, and our local communities. And for us here at the Legal Aid Society of San Bernardino, it's been very tough as well. We've been struggling desperately to keep our doors open, and we've been trying really hard to continue providing services for the people here in Victorville. We've been working here for a little while now, and as of recent, we've seen increase in the number of people who desperately need our services, increase in the cases involving violence, and a decrease in our capacity to help them all. And I wish you could see the frustration on the people that come in and, really needing our help when they have these problems, sometimes both legal and non-legal, and they don't know where to turn, because either they don't know how to navigate the legal system, or they come from families where English is not primary language and they're not comfortable coming up and defending themselves. I wish you could see, the relief that they have when they come to see us and find out that there is someone out there willing to listen to them and, help them through their problems. So I wish that you can help us continue to provide, services to the community. A lot of them come back with new knowledge of the system and continue using our services as they need it. And I want to thank you for your support in the past, and just know that the impact that our services have not only impact the clients that we'd help, but it impacts their children and their families and the surrounding communities. And I want to urge for your continued support in the future.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Cassandra Black.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am the counselor, prevention educator, and victims advocate for sexual assault services. I want to first thank you for all of your previous support to our agency. And briefly, I just want to enhance the application that we filed for funding by sharing with you the direction we're planning to go in the upcoming year. National statistics of sexual assault crimes are relatively high. Locally, Victorville is also touched by these crimes. The Victorville office can provide up to 100 counseling sessions a month. So without a doubt, intervention is important and necessary for our Victorville community. We all agree that the world, the community, would be much better off without sexual assault. So prevention is the key. So we continue to examine where we can improve and how we can be more effective by passing more information on to our community to help minimize the possibilities of sexual assault. So this year we have begun and plan to continue programs that involve the parents and the children. For parents and young children, we have developed a program to help parents to not fear early education when it comes to child safety, specifically as it pertains to child sexual predators. One of our pilot locations was Parkview Preschool. This presentation is called Keeping My Body Safe, featuring Lily the dog. I partnered with Midge Nicosia, who volunteered her time and her dog, and Midge works with Victor Valley Community Services Council. We presented to the parents first and then to the children, and we received a good response, a positive response from the teachers and the children and the parents. And it has been asked or requested that we do this again in 2013. For our teens, we are providing an evidence-based prevention education program titled Healthy Relationships. And this program includes a commitment from the parents to participate in separate classes. One of our pilot locations was the Fair Association at the Yes Center. And there we presented to ages 11 through 17 to approximately 20 kids. And
20 seconds.
And we offered 10 classes to the parents, 10 classes to the children, and 2 to the parents. And we received a good response with that. And we're also going to Goodwill High School in January. Our message is that we want to make sure that everyone knows that sexual assault is preventable rather than inevitable. And so we have much work to do. So we thank you for your support and hope that you can also offer it again this year. And happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Midge Nicosia? And please try to keep our comments 3 minutes or less, so everybody will
Hi
get a
there.
chance. Thank you.
I am in support of several of the programs that have already spoken, but today I'm here to talk about mine. I am Midge Nicosia, the Executive Director for the Victor Valley Community Services Council. We are the oldest nonprofit here in the High Desert, the very first service agency established in the 50s. A lot of people don't know who we are. We have helped establish the United Way up here, the homeless shelter, Better Way Domestic Violence, and tons of other agencies. I'm here today to ask for CDBG funds for our Transportation for Seniors program. I have applied for the last couple of years for the programs we offer free for poverty level seniors. That's seniors that basically have an income of lower than $14,000 a year, are fixed income, can barely afford to feed themselves. We have not gotten funding from the City of Victorville. We have, however, gotten funding from the City of Town of Apple Valley and the City of Hesperia to run the programs in their cities and help their seniors. We continue to help seniors in the City of Victorville with our own funding, but it is a strain on us, and the Department of Aging and Adult Services, who we are a vendor for, has canceled the transportation program, which they used to support, and that's how we were able to support the City of Victorville clients. We get a lot of seniors. What we do with our transportation program is we pick them up. We use volunteer drivers. We reimburse them for expenses. We pick them up at their home and take them through their doctor's appointments, their medical exams, their banking, their shopping, the things that they can't get to because they're no longer capable of driving. They're on medications. They have illnesses. They're a widow or widower, and their partner used to drive. I don't know how many of you remember all the accidents that happened because a senior who should not be driving is driving the wrong way on the freeway, and I think that just happened recently. The first thing that goes when a senior loses their driving privilege is their very first feeling of losing their identity. And we try to give it back to them by offering them a more supportive service that we communicate with them and pick them up and help them individually. I had a senior calling our office yesterday, the day before yesterday, who cried because VVTA denied her application for direct access, which is the senior and disabled bus that they have where they will go to the home and pick them up. However, sometimes, and I've been told by my senior clients that the reason they don't like it is because they have to sit on that bus for 2 hours to make their appointment. They may have to get on that bus a couple hours early. Now, mind you, this senior that got denied, she can't walk very far, but VVTA told her no, she would need to walk a mile to the bus stop to get the appointment to go to her doctor. Now, if you're ill and you're trying to get to your doctor to get your medications, you're not going to be able to walk a mile to the bus stop to pick up a bus ride and get
20
to the
seconds.
Our transportation program is free to the seniors that are low income and struggling in the high desert. We continue to service seniors, and we have plenty that call in Victorville. And as you know, HUD and Sandbag has already determined that transportation is an issue up here in the high desert, and we are helping to solve it. And I hope that you will see fit to read our application when you do see them, and fund us for our transportation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have no more. I have one more card. Greg Barnes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Gregory Barnes. I'm with St. John of God Healthcare Services, Samaritan's Helping Hand. We've been serving the people of Victorville since 1985, and we do it down at Samaritan's. We serve approximately 300 individuals per month with food, shelter, emergency utility assistance, and other needs. Half or more of that 300 are residents of Victorville that are going to be living in the cold, having no utilities, or going to bed hungry. St. John of God is located in downtown Victorville, and most recently we had a 84-year-old woman referred to us by a city employee that had called us crying because she had been her and her son had been eating cat food for the last 2 weeks and had no way of having any food. So we took her some food to her house. She was restrained at home. Her home was dilapidated, didn't have any gas. So we are coming to you in hopes that you will assist us helping the City of Victorville residents by applying for the CDBG grant funds. We do work with other agencies. We are and have been a known member in the community and are very proud to service the City of Victorville. I thank you for your time. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. I don't have any other comment cards. Have you received any? I want to thank each and every one of you for coming forward and talking to the council. I assure you that the council listens very carefully to these requests. We wish we could answer each and every one of them, and we can't. It's very difficult, and staff and council is very serious. We are going to start in the future maybe a little bit of an advocacy program, because we're going to, on behalf of our agencies, we're going to try to reach the county and the state if we possibly can to assist for grants wherever we can. But I do thank you. This public hearing will remain open, Madam Clerk, until when?
Metzler, I'm not sure what the next date is.
Yeah, I can probably suggest the next steps. I'm not necessarily sure we need to keep the public hearing open at this time. In fact, I think it's appropriate to close the public hearing. I think perhaps just to add for the benefit of the council and also the members of the audience that are here, this is the first procedural step in the process that eventually gets us to selecting and making awards for CDBG and home applications for funds that will be available during the 2013-2014 fiscal year. We're actually soliciting applications as we speak, and the deadline for applications to be submitted to the city is January 10th, 2013. What you're dealing with and have been dealing with as an entitlement city since 1997 is your entitlement allocation from HUD of both CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant monies, and home dollars, which in the aggregate we're expecting that it would be about $1.238 million of grant awards that you'll be participating in, and those monies are intended to satisfy applicants considering public service programs, construction and development programs, along with housing programs that all benefit the very low income persons within the targeted census areas of the city. We're actually expecting that January, at the next council meeting, I believe it's January 15th, that we'll actually need to have among the council 2 members appointed to serve on the selection committee. From there, staff actually works directly with that selection committee and reviews all of the applications that have been submitted. We actually screen them for you first and then leave it to the selection committee to determine how to prioritize funding applications. And of course, those funding applications have to be consistent with both the city's consolidated plan and the action plan. So altogether, this is the first step. We're getting started, but over the course of the next 60 days, certainly, I would expect that we get through the process and start making official awards for funds that would be effectively available July 1st of 2013.
Okay. So we will close the public hearing then, my mistake, and that way we can start the process. And if there's no comments by the City Council, we've conducted the public hearing, closed the public hearing, and the matter then is referred so the process can start. Thank you very much, those individuals who came forward, and have a good evening and happy holidays. Item number 13 is the consent calendar.
Mayor Cox, you need 2 more council people to come back.
I'm sorry?
Missing 2 council people right now.
Well, that's their problem. They're out of the room. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Are we okay? Item number 13 is the consent calendar.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron. Motion carries unanimously.
Item 14 is a presentation with a request to adopt resolution number 12-066 entitled a resolution. Oh, I'm wrong? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody said no.
No.
Okay. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Victorville hereby authorizing the Director of Development to submit an application for a CAL Recycle waste tire enforcement grant and to execute all grants-related operations. Execute all grant-related operations. Item 14.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron, second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion carries unanimously.
$15 is a written communications from our Director of Public Works and Water. Subject is the recommendation is the staff recommends that the City Council approve Amendment Number 1 to the Sandbag Construction Cooperative Agreement for the La Mesa Nisqually I-15 Interchange Project.
Mr. Mayor, just a question. Sean, is this yours? This is a little bit like a negative change order, is it not?
That would be correct, Councilman Kennedy. This would be a negative change order. It's a good thing. The original estimates for the interchange were much, much higher than the bid, and also the contract entered into with Arcadis by Sandbag to do the construction management for the project. They found that was, and $8 million was a bid that was really too much for the amount of work that they're now about halfway through, and the recommendation is that that contract be reduced by $2 million. So between those two items, there is a recommendation to amend the cooperative agreement downward by I think it's $18 million.
As I recall, the original estimates for the project were about 60, and Victorville's portion was 40, thereabouts?
Victorville was always on the hook for half of the construction cost
30?
of the interchange, yes.
And we are now where? 20?
Off the top of my head, let's see.
$21,894,324.
Thank you.
Approximately.
Off the top of his head.
It's helping you out, Sean.
Well done. Who gets credit for that? You?
No.
He wrote the staff report. I just read it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No further comments? No further questions?
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 16, from Don Trapp, the Fire Chief, recommendation the Honorable Council approve $48,030 additional appropriations for the fire contract. According to the discussion at the bottom, an audit by the county discovered that the city was not being properly credited for their share of the state's waste oil recycling program, and the audit will result in a refund of $42,471 for fiscal year 2010 and 11, and 11 and 12. That's always very good news. So if we're getting all this money back, why are we appropriating additional money?
Mr. Mayor, as the fire chief makes his way up, there are a couple of credits that we received earlier this year. However, when the firefighters approved their contract, there was what's called a Me Too clause. It's actually a separate contract that effectively says that, hey, we're first in line. We made some concessions. If other bargaining units at the county don't make concessions, then some of our concessions will go away. So, Chief Trapp, if you could explain further.
Yeah, we actually have two amendments to the contract. The first one is a credit. An audit by the county discovered that the city was not being properly credited for the state's waste oil collection program, going back for the last 2 fiscal years, and then including this year's contract. So in that, the city does get a refund check of $42,471 for the previous 2 fiscal years, and a reduction in this year's contract of an additional $26,392. So that's amendment number 1 to the contract. The second amendment to the contract is when the county was facing its initial fiscal difficulties, the county went to all the labor groups asking them to make concessions. The firefighters group was the first one that raised their hand and said, we'll do it, effective July 2011. And being the first ones to do it, they asked for some protection clause in their contract if the county could not get the other groups to make the concessions. Every other labor group has fought tooth and nail for every last penny, and several still have not accepted the cuts. But in a couple of them, with the sheriff, certain parts of the new sheriff contract, they are accepting most of the concessions, but they have been given an exception to one. So that one, the Me Too clause in the firefighter agreement, brings that one back for the firefighters. Now, since the firefighters were the first ones to accept the contract concessions, the city of Victorville saved $350,000 in the 11-12 fiscal year contract. They will still save more than $250,000 in this year's contract, and that savings will still go forward. So there is, that totals about $116,000 additional in the second amendment to the contract. So the 2 amendments total, you put them together, it's the $48,030 additional appropriation.
Chief Trapp, thank you, and
yes, sir.
thank the County Fire Department.
Thank you.
No further questions?
Thank you.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 17, Resolution 12-068, from Director of Public Works and Water, Sean McGlade. No fiscal impact here. There shouldn't be anything else to present.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 18, again, Sean McGlade, Council Policy CP-10-02 is attached. It's a proposed council policy. Recommendation that the City Council approve. Proposed Council Policy CP-10-02A. Questions of Mr. McGlade?
I'm struggling with this recommendation. So we're going to be getting the developers, letting the developers off the hook for property that they own. They don't have to pay for lighting. Is it because we're not providing lighting and we're not providing landscaping?
It's a situation where a tract has land has been subdivided, but no construction has taken place.
And they're putting money in to the city in the DIF funds?
The city is still collecting an assessment on the properties for landscaping.
And there's no landscaping going on?
Well, the landscaping is the landscaping that exists, but typically a development will add to that and become part of the assessment as well.
So what's the incentive to get the developer to develop that property?
This is really to put the assessment on those properties into a holding pattern until that develops. It's not really an encouragement to development. It's merely it's a concession to the developer to keep his project in a holding pattern, and the city is still maintaining an assessment district. And as soon as the development would occur and the improvements go in, then the city will up the assessment per lot to the same as everybody else in that assessment district.
Now, are they going to ask us for the money that they've already paid, like retro?
That has been a request, and that's one of the reasons why we want to make this clear, that this concession, if you will, this dollar per lot collected is on a go-forward basis only and is not retroactive.
So what's in it for the city to let them off the hook?
It's more a case of equity. What we're seeing is a vacant lot that we're collecting an assessment for, and typically you would have to draw the benefit that the occupant, if you will, or the owner of the property enjoys the landscaping in the assessment district. If it's not occupied, then it's not, it's hard to...
I know a few months back we had a presentation on lighting district and how the funds were low. How does this affect that? Because I remember you were talking about there was vacant land that we weren't collecting enough for. Wouldn't that make your situation worse?
That's actually a separate district from these. Mr. McGlade indicated that there is landscaping. It's simply desert landscaping, whatever is there now. So effectively these lots have been subdivided, and the builders would very much like to build, but they don't have people wanting to buy the homes, so they haven't constructed them yet. So, but because they've subdivided, they're subject to the tax through the landscape maintenance assessment districts. So effectively, they have not really done anything. They haven't put in any landscaping, and yet, because of the timing of things, we're actually beginning, the county is beginning to collect those fees for the city to then maintain those districts, but there's nothing there to maintain yet.
How much money is in there now?
That I don't know. There's several different landscape maintenance assessment districts, but it really comes down to a fairness issue. If they haven't actually constructed the house and put the landscaping in, then there's no real reason for us to need to collect a fee on those individual lots.
So they've been paying, if I understand correctly, they have been paying for something they're not getting from the city.
They've been paying for the maintenance of an assessment district, and while you have an owner of the lot, as opposed to somebody who's actually occupying a home on the lot, that's where we draw the distinction, and basically it's hard to make the case that the person who lives in Los Angeles enjoys the landscaping in the assessment district in Victorville.
Do other cities do this? Do they have a policy like this?
I haven't made those inquiries. This is just simply something that was, it seemed appropriate to do that, given the circumstances of the economy the way it is, and
Would it
the
be
fact that the
considered
development
like
never
the price of doing
progressed.
business?
It could be considered that, yes.
How do you feel about it as a city manager?
I think it's simply fair that if they haven't done the work, there's nothing for us to maintain. I don't see why anybody would need to pay an additional tax in order to maintain something that doesn't exist yet.
So why wouldn't we just give them all their money back?
The reason for that is because we need to keep if we were to simply get rid of it, we would have to re-implement that assessment district. The $1 is just a nominal fee just to keep it alive, essentially, so that it can automatically go back up.
I meant the fees that we have collected for no service.
Oh, from the past?
Yeah.
I mean, each year the amount of money collected is reviewed and compared with the costs to provide the service. And to go back and give money back that's already been collected could run us into a financial situation with that assessment district.
Okay, go ahead.
If there is a house or someone living there and there is landscaping, they are required to pay for the maintenance of that.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And if there are no homes or the landscape has not been put in, they should not be paying for that. But we have collected money, and so we hold that in trust. Now, I understand that if it starts building now, it picks up and they do collect money to maintain. What happens if circumstances beyond the control of the builder or the subdivider is that this is reverted back to acreage and we have money in trust? At that point, does it go back to the individual who put up the money? Looking for a fairness issue here. I realize if there's nothing to maintain, we shouldn't be collecting the money. I understand by having $1 a year, it keeps it active in case they build. What happens if it doesn't build? We need to be equally fair there also.
I think that's worth evaluating. Going back in time, when an analysis is made each year that takes a look at the fund balance, that carries over into the following year, it's compared with the anticipated expenditures, and then a decision is made as to whether there needs to be an increase in the assessment or not is made. And if the amount of money collected defers that increase in time, it's something that the rest of the people being assessed in that district benefit from.
I think that Councilmember Wise raised a good question. If they're not receiving the services, we shouldn't be charging. But if they're receiving any services at all, they should be paying their share. Does this do that?
Yes, on a go-forward basis, that's exactly what we're talking
Bring
about.
this back to the council annually for a review?
Each year there is an assessment district. The engineer's report is brought to City Council for approval.
Any previously collected funds may very well have been spent on the landscaping that does exist somewhere else in the district. So if we were to try to calculate some sort of a refund, we would potentially go negative on those funds because it's done on an annual basis.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have further any questions, council members? Okay, this is a recommend that the council adopt policy number CP-10-02A.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem McEachran, second by Councilmember Kennedy. Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is agenda item number 19. Subject is adoption of a conflict of interest code for 2012. Any discussion, any questions? Do you have anything to add, Madam City Clerk?
No, this is just the review and approval that's required every 2 years under state law.
Typically, the only changes to this are any changes to titles of city employees who may be affected by it.
Motion by Councilmember Vyas, second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachron. Motion carries unanimously.
Next is the appointment of next is agenda item number 20. If council will bear with me for just a moment. We have, find this, the Community Services Advisory Committee appointments, which are nominations, and Mr. McEachron would have a nomination here, or a new or existing. Former council members Rothschild and Cabrianos have been replaced by Mr. Cox, Ms. Garcia. I don't mean they've been replaced, but you know how that works. And therefore, the nominations exist for those members. That is the first item, the legislative review. In talking with members of our council, we agree to continue that if there's no objections, so that we have time to review the role and agendize it at a later date. And then, of course, the last one, we got two parts, but the last one of this part is the Planning Commission appointees. And again, the new members have the right to appoint, and also Council Member McEachron. So could we take those first?
Is that agenda item number 21?
That would be agenda item 21.
Oh, I did. Well, I have it all together. So, okay, we'll do 21st then. On item number 20, if you will bear with me, we have two members here that are new. We have three members that sit on various committees that have ongoing meetings that are that is very important. We do not want to disrupt in the middle of the stream during the holidays, and so the appointment schedules that have been submitted to the council members, I would request that you review that with an understanding that these are not fixed. And even though we have elections for every 2 years, and even though we go through this each 2 years, that we bring this back in approximately 90 days, adopt this proposal as it exists, with the understanding that we have peoples with different obligations and responsibilities. And I'm certainly willing to give up my committees to other individuals for convenience, and I'm sure other individuals will want to talk about trading theirs. This is difficult because when we talk about these, we talk about them in a public session, because the members cannot meet in private and decide because of the Brown Act. So I did this for convenience, using the existing memberships that exist, but I would hope the council would adopt that with the understanding that we are going to work together, and for the benefit of all of us, we can make some changes and bring it back if we need to review it in 90 days, if that's agreeable.
Mr. Mayor, there's only one here that is an either or that doesn't seem to be, well, two, I guess. It doesn't seem to specify who's the delegate and who's the alternate, and that's the Sandbag Committee. Because Councilmember McEachron is listed as delegate or alternate. I'm listed as delegate or alternate. I think he would prefer to be delegate, and I would prefer to be alternate. Can we make that specific?
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Councilmember Kennedy. And the only other thing that I would note and ask our city clerk to verify, I believe I received a letter from the San Bernardino County Flood Control District Zone 4 Advisory Committee, basically dispensing or disbanding that committee. as far as elected officials are concerned, it's going to be just at the technical level. The thought of getting that many elected officials in one room together from various areas never works, so they've decided to just bring it down to the city staff level, I believe. I don't know if Sean can confirm that or not, but okay. I think I received a letter, but if you could confirm that. I don't know that
I will do that. I wasn't
committee
aware of
actually
that.
will exist as an appointment for the council any longer.
I will confirm that.
Well, if it's acceptable, whoever we've designated as the delegate and the alternate would remain unless that is the case. And if that is the case, that it's being reconstructed with staff members, then that's going to be up to the city manager to determine the staff member that would sit on that. It is a technical committee. Acceptable? Now, there was the appointment to the High Desert Corridor, JPA. I had thought about that. I was interested in that, but then I was told that this appointment is made by the First District Supervisor. And so we will let the First District Supervisor, I guess if that's the way it's set up, then he will do that, and we will not make that committee. With those exceptions, could I ask the council to approve the proposed appointments?
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Mayor Pro Tem McEachern. Motion carries unanimously.
And now, item 21, which I got ahead of myself initially, was when I referred to the Community Services Advisory Committee, the Legislative Review Committee, and the Planning Commission. We do have we do have a member that was shown on the Legislative Review, and we have vacant positions, and rather than go into that, we could just, if we could just continue that one, please, for now, the Legislative Review. And at this point in time, if you would need to correct me, Madam Clerk, feel free to do so. The individual members of the council then who have a right to nominate would nominate the members for the Community Services Advisory Committee.
That's correct. They may either keep the current appointments or make changes either tonight or at a future meeting. If no changes are made tonight, then those current appointments just continue for another 60 days.
I would like to, is this where I say it? I would like to appoint Hakeem, I can't say your last name, okay, yeah, that, to my Parks and Recs.
Okay, since your vacancy is not a scheduled vacancy that automatically expires, I do need to post the vacancy for a period of 20 days. So we could place it on the agenda for January 15th.
Okay.
To make the appointment
Okay.
for Hakeem.
Sounds
If
good.
you could submit a letter of interest or a resume so I can put that with the agenda item. Thank you.
Council members, Madam Clerk, since we're going to be considering this for appointment at a later date, then I am also going to request that I do not make an appointment now, and that'll automatically continue for 60 days. But I will be prepared to also make the appointment on the same time we agendize this again. And
I didn't understand what you said about the legislative. Do you want to
Oh, the
continue
le-
it to another meeting?
yeah, the Legislative Review Committee, it hasn't been active. There's a question on what they do. We have vacancies. We may have vacancies for almost all the members. And I think that we need to look at that to find out. It looks like almost everyone's going to appoint for that if we have the Legislative Review. I think we need the Legislative Review. I haven't had an opportunity to even think about who to put on there, but
Do we need attorneys, or it could be anyone?
I think it could be anyone.
Typically, just be anybody. I mean, you're considering legislation and policy decisions and making recommendations to this council whether to support different types of legislation. It's typically what you'll do.
Councilmember Garcia, if you are prepared to have a nomination for the Community Services Advisory Committee, you could do so. No, the Community Services Advisory?
I don't have any.
Okay, then that also, And City Clerk,
Continue.
you will notify by email these individuals so that at the next meeting, whatever it was, I missed it, to consider those. Legislative review will remain blank, will be continued, so it'll remain blank. And then now for the nominations for the planning commissioners. And the ones who get to nominate are the 2 new members and Mr. McEachran, a continuing member. So if you are prepared, start on the left. Ms. Garcia.
Yes, I would like to appoint Ronald Chavez. He's a lifelong resident of Victorville. He actually established Advantage Heating and Air in 1989, and he's interested in joining the Planning Commission. So I appoint him.
Madam Clerk, do we vote on these individually? Do we vote on them collectively? I'm not sure.
Individually would be
Individually.
appropriate.
If there's no other nominations you have a nomination, and therefore, would we vote, would recommend a positive vote on, and I'm sorry, I didn't get Ronald's last name?
Chavez.
Chavez.
And so we have it for the record, Councilmember Garcia, if we could please receive a resume or a letter of interest, so we have that on file for Mr. Chavez.
Yes, I'll have that for you.
Thank you. And a voice vote can be taken on this because there is not an item for each individual appointment.
Those in favor, say yes.
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 No opposed, it's unanimous. Mr. McEachran,
I make a motion to reappoint Robert Bob Wilson to the Planning Commission.
and that's your only nomination?
That's my only nomination.
No objections from members of the council, ask to vote.
Yes.
Those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. No noes, carries unanimously. My nomination for this, Larry Huber, has been involved for a long time, a member of the Planning Commission. I, especially now, would request that he be reappointed and carry on. I nominate Mr. Larry Huber. I have no other nominations. If no objections, call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Mr. Mayor, I just, if going back to the Community Services Advisory Committee, I don't need to wait. I'd like to reappoint Richard Golden to the Community Services Advisory Committee.
Okay, the nomination from Mr. McEachran for Mr. Richard Golden. There's no other nominations. If no objections, I request a vote for Mr. Golden. Say yes if you approve.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And no noes, it's unanimous. And I will make mine at a later time. Now, did I sufficiently confuse that enough for everyone?
No.
Okay. Item number 22, council member reports, and we'll start on the left. Next meeting, remind me, and we'll start on the right. We want to do this different each time, and so.
Mr. Mayor, this is the committee reports first.
Committee, council.
Council committee
What
reports
it is, let's skip an item?
is item 22.
Okay, council making reports. Sorry, you're right. I'm just trying to get home before it snows. Do we have any reports? Activity representatives of the city on various boards and committees from council members.
I have from VVTA. We met with our strategic planning. We had a strategic planning meeting, and there was some priorities that they talked about that I think that I'm not comfortable making those decisions because it concerns our LTF funds. They're looking at 5 additional positions, huge raises. And there's one thing that I would like is Sunday service, and they think it could be about $60,000 for each city. But they said that it could even be less if they take away some of the less used routes on Saturday and move them to Sunday. It could even be less than $60,000. And the funds are there in LTF for each city, and so it is feasible. but I don't know if you guys, if, you know, the council or the city has that money freed. So I was reluctant to make any decisions at that strategic planning, and I wasn't sure, because that was the first one I had went to, so I wasn't sure, am I supposed to make those decisions, or how do we talk about it? Do I need to agendize it?
Well, first of all, I think it's an excellent question. We adopt a budget annually that we all participate in, but then we belong to different committees, and sometimes the other entities, such as this one here, if they raise fees and it exceeds the amount or requires an appropriation, it would seem that it should come back to the council. But I don't know what policy you have on that, so I'm going to defer to the staff liaison. I'm sure we have one in regard to transit.
Yeah, I'm not sure about as far as transit specifically, but typically most of the committees that you might sit on, you will have had some kind of general direction from the council at some point and could typically be able to make those decisions. In this case, you're absolutely right that it could affect LTF funds that we had programmed in our own budget. So I would actually recommend for the specific instance that we put this item on the January 15th agenda, invite Mr. Kevin Kane to come down and present to the full council so that we all have the same information. And then also our public works staff who staff that committee and assist Ms. Valles can have a similar assessment as to what would happen should we have a reduction in the LTF funds that we were planning to use this year.
Oh, good, because I refused to make a decision, and I said that I needed to come back in, and they said that they were going to work with Roe, so to work with the council. I didn't understand exactly how that was going to work, so.
If you've been designated the council as our rep, so someone is going to work with you.
Right, and
it's
that's
going to come
Roe
back.
Ratcliffe?
Well, I mean, the VVTA, the information may come to the staff member, but it's going to come to you because that's why you're there representing us, to look out for the city's interest, and thank you for bringing this back. Any other reports from the council members regarding activities or committees? Discussion. Next item is item number 23, discussion and possible action regarding items for the upcoming city council agenda. And I know during the evening we have several items that we have talked about scheduling in the future. Do we have any other items to be scheduled for upcoming council agenda items?
Just what I said.
We will take note of those, including the public hearing, CDBG, and the other issues. I know the city clerk has those. Presentation of report by staff and council members, item 24. But we just had that.
This is effectively the council comments, staff and council comments. So I don't think staff has any additional comments for the meeting tonight.
I don't know, that's what the agenda said, presentation of reports, so it's just council comments at this point.
Good job on running a meeting.
Thanks for being helpful.
Told you
to the
that, Gal
council.
Savvy. I would just like to acknowledge former mayor and council member Jean DeBlasis, who we lost today, and just in remembering her, I think we should adjourn the meeting in her honor. She served the city well. Her and her family have been integral parts of this community for decades, and I think everyone should remember her and her family and all that they've done. And I do believe there is a memorial service planned for January 5th at 1 p.m., if I remember correctly, at Kemper Campbell Ranch. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Mr. McEachran. Any other comments? Madam Clerk, I'm going to adjourn this meeting unless you object.
Please do.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. And I do want to thank the council for helping